Welcome to Laid Back Law with your favorite lawyers from around the interwebs, discussing the most pressing of topics every Friday at noon Eastern Time.
All right, we are here. I'm with the wonderful Dani Ahn Direct, and we're starting off the show this week a little calmer. Last week, people will confirm that there were a lot of fireworks, and it was headache-inducing in a lot of ways. Now, that I'm going to take the blame for. I need to assert more control on the show when there's a heavy-duty controversy. Obviously, you don't want to have like Dani on and Dave and Nate. So we've been around and we know how to communicate. I think that when I bring somebody in who has very strong opinions and is extremely assertive, and well, actually, to quote a friend of mine, if he said that if you put good logic and Pisco on the same stream, they're kind of like beta fish, and you're going to be in trouble. And I was like, that's a really wonderful analogy because, but both were hot-headed. So he will be back at some point, just for those who are wondering. But to start with, I think it's going to be a one-on-one debate with me sort of trying to moderate with Nate would be first. And hopefully we can start to incorporate and get some decorum. Now, Dani, I don't know if you saw last week's, but you've probably heard about it.
No, actually, all I heard is that it was a fiasco. And I jokingly wrote in chat, I was like, well, I think there's a correlation between having a good time and me being there. So,
hey, there you go. Hey, we have a great time with Dani. Absolutely.
Well, it's hard to argue with me, and I'm sure I've hurt feelings, but it's always unintentional. But, last time Ian's like, well, then I just won't take you seriously. And I was like, whoever asked you to take me seriously? I think that people, especially attorneys, here's the thing. Here's what I will say. I have no idea what happened, but I can guess based on my experience with other attorneys. Most attorneys are type A personalities. Mm-hmm. And most attorneys like to not only dominate, they like to be right. Mm-hmm. So being right is the ultimate goal, more so than their ego, anything else. And their ego is tied to being right. And so if there's a debate, it can very quickly become, I'm right, you're wrong, which is an insult to that person, even though it's not, right? Clearly it's not in the rules of civility, even close to an argument against the person. Sometimes we can get our feelers hurt, I think, but I'm lucky. I have never had a type A personality. I'm really go with the flow. I'm like in color coordination, I'm yellow. I'm an advocate and I like to be right too, so I can relate to that. But I usually am right, so I don't get too offended too often.
I guess I'm different in the sense that I come from another camp. Like, believe it or not, I hate debates because I don't feel like debates change people's minds. And if you're not really going to be changing people's minds or having a legitimate discussion, I think you're wasting everybody's time trying to collect points, if that makes sense.
It does, but see, and maybe that's the difference, because you saw me 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when I was on your show change my mind because I realized, wait a second, my logic is flawed. I've been beat. Mm-hmm. These guys are right. I've changed my mind. I'm on their side now, right? So I think that's just a personality difference. Honestly, law is for lawyers. I've said this for a long time. Law and debate is for lawyers because that's how we come to a better understanding of the truth. Not everyone is that way. Not everybody is that way. And I don't think everyone should be that way. Could you imagine what a horrible world this would be if we were all the same and we were all like lawyers? It would be a disaster zone. We'd all be at war all the time. And that's why I'm a huge advocate for allowing and electing elected officials who represent the general populace in the House, rather than just having an elite Senate class. So being able to have, mothers who just gave birth be able to vote, having, people who aren't the most educated, having people who are blue collar workers who all they did was construction before they came into office, and then not laughing at them. I think it's really disgusting when I see, the media and the elite DC class, the Beltway, make fun of and laugh at, congressmen who are sitting there saying, I can't read 900 pages in a night. And neither can you. You guys are all liars. You're just trusting, the word of these lobbyists, and you don't actually work. And this is
that's where AI maybe come in handy. I mean, seriously, first thing, if I was on a congressional staff and one of those omnibuses came in, I would feed that thing right into ChatGPT or something and say, give me a breakdown of the numbers, what you're going here, and how is this different than this other one? And I feed them both, things like that to just let's get some good prompts to get to the meat of what the hell is being shoveled to you at the time. Now, granted, garbage in, garbage out, it still could be a huge time saver, I feel. And you could say, what page is that reference? What is going on here? Why is that? What is my policy? What did I run on? Etc.
AI is going to knock out a lot of attorneys' jobs, to be honest. I'm just being honest. It is what it is, especially transactional attorneys. It's like you don't need. I I got in a fight with my brother the other day because he had drawn up this contract for us, and he was so upset that I wouldn't sign it. I said, well, it's missing some key aspects and elements to it that will provide protection. And he was like, well, I think it's fine. I think it's legally valid and enforceable. And I was like, well, no. And I was like, hold on a second. So I go on ChatGPT and I ask for the type of contract he had sent me. And sure enough, it's word for word the exact same. And I sent it over to him. I said, look, I just had ChatGPT draw this up. I was like, we're not quite to the degree that AI can fully represent people in court, but we are to the degree that AI is beating out, I would say, 30% of attorneys out there who have always kind of just made it, just barely past the post. So it's a scary world. It's a scary world. You either have to be the best of the best and be really on top of your game as an attorney and be able to sell yourself as an attorney. Otherwise, you're going to get knocked off. That's my personal opinion.
Now, Nate, since you got here, turns out that the Karen Reed trial that wasn't going to be going today is going today. So we're short staffed. We're probably doing a shorter show today.
That's cool.
Cover some stuff. Danny, unfortunately, has been covering Karen Reed since that's the new sexy trial. I figure it would be good to hear exactly what's going on. And Danny, could you break it down for us? And first off, just the basic thumbnail of what the charges are, what it's about, and then what's happening now.
Karen Reed is charged with murdering her then boyfriend, John O'Keefe, who was a Massachusetts police officer. And the allegation of the state is that while they were drunk and fighting, she went to drop him off at a house party that was held by all of his colleagues, all police officers, his friends. And in a drunken rage, she backed up into him and left him for dead and left him to die in the cold and drove home in a blizzard very quickly. By the way, based on the black box, she got home real quick in this alleged blizzard that was allegedly happening at the time that she backed into him. Anyway, so she gets home and goes to sleep, wakes up. She actually doesn't go to sleep. She starts texting and calling him names, saying, you're an asshole, you're this, you're that. I hate you, because he hadn't come home from the party and she was taking care of his kids. And in context, the two had been arguing for like the day before they had been kind of arguing a little bit. And there was some tension, and you could tell that he was like not wanting to escalate things, but he also needed her to help him with his kids. There's very much that vibe in the text messages, which we all went over again yesterday or the day before. Okay. Anyway, so the allegation of the state is she backed into him, killed him, and then she came over to the friend's house the next day, went looking for him, found him in the snow. He was obviously dead in the snow. Now, that is the state's allegations. The defense's allegation is, wait a second. You guys, first of all, there's so much corruption going on here. Why the heck did the lead investigator not go inside the house to investigate at all? Why did the lead investigator not separate and individually interrogate each one of the witnesses who were there that night at the party where he was allegedly dropped off at? Because according to Karen Reed's account, she dropped him off and took off, right? So the only people who know whether or not he stepped foot into the house were the people who may have known what happened after he was dropped off. But they were never interrogated individually and separately at the time. They never came out of the house, which, you know, I don't hang my hat on. I don't think that's necessarily odd. But then there's issues with the investigation afterwards. And those are the things I was talking about before, with snow blowers being used or leaf blowers being used to blow away snow to collect drops of blood around the victim. And the drops of blood were not collected in, you know, proper course or proper manner. They were collected in red Solo cups that came from a neighbor's house.
Wow. So now, from my understanding,
no. Hold on. You can't just throw that line out there. Just,
I'm not done.
And then it gets worse than that. Hold on.
It gets sillier.
They used a leaf blower.
They use a leaf blower.
Evidence.
Correct.
And it wasn't even their old red Solo cups. They got it from a neighbor's
house.
This is crazy.
They're forensic cups.
Forensic cups.
Forensic red Solo cups.
Wow.
So they collect blood droplets from the scene. They don't take pictures of his body there on the ground initially, which is weird because everyone so far has testified that he was, by all intents and purposes, dead.
Well, hold on. I'm sorry. When did this murder? When did this homicide happen? Because
alleged murder happened back in 2022.
So nobody with the camera took a picture of the body. Like anybody could have taken that picture. There's no picture
at its location on the ground. No.
Wow.
If there is some, I haven't seen it.
Isn't that normal part of evidence collection, Nate? You're a cop.
Well, no. I was a cop, but the first thing you do is you take a picture of like, oh, okay. And sometimes, matter of fact, well, it depends. 2022, there's body cam. So when you go to the scene, you turn your body cam, and your body cam is recorded. So even if you don't have the still pictures, you have. I don't know what they're doing up there. That's crazy.
It's even weirder, Nate, because when allegedly she goes back and finds the body with Jen McCabe and their friend. Jen McCabe is the wife of the woman who she's one of the co-owners of the house where the party was. Okay. So her husband's a cop. Everybody's a freaking cop and everybody is related in this case. Another important factor here. And nobody likes the defendant. This is also important. So yes, and Canton PD does not use body cams, which also makes this even more frustrating. So here's the thing. They pull up looking for John. They have no idea where he is. She frantically texts in the morning to her girlfriend, right, who's at the party. Hey, where's John? Where is John? And she's like, I don't know. And she goes, we need to find him. We need to look for him. So they go looking for him. And the one friend calls 911. They report him missing. And then as they're driving around, they find his dead body in front of the McCabe's house that Jen McCabe somehow didn't notice. But they use that as a piece of evidence against the defendant because she saw the body and went, oh my gosh, that's him. Hopped out of the car and he was allegedly covered in snow. Allegedly, he was cold to the touch. I mean, by all accounts, Nate, wouldn't you think, yeah, now's the time to pull out a camera and start designating this as a criminal? Like, wouldn't you start to shut down the crime scene and collect evidence and think, yeah, this guy's dead in the snow. What the heck happened?
Well, if I'm in a house full of cops, yeah, I'm like that's the first thing we'd start thinking about doing. Like, yeah, let's start recording stuff to make sure we can figure out what happened here.
Right. So, and by the way, I am just scratching the surface here. I'm not going deep into the evidence. I'm not going in. Everybody has their own arguments. Everybody thinks she's either 100% guilty or 100% innocent. Okay. This is a very contentious case. Well, there's reasons for that. So they find his body. So far, this retrial has been very good. Alan Jackson is an attorney. I think he's based in California. He's representing the defendant. He's phenomenal. He came in, just cross-whipped the crap out of the first two witnesses, did a great job completely discrediting them. The first two witnesses you wouldn't think needed to be discredited.
Now, this is the first trial.
This is the second trial.
Second. Okay.
So,
well, the first trial, essentially, you already covered, right? It went to mistrial.
Yeah.
Right.
What about the controversy about the jury wanting to eliminate the top charge, but given bad instructions? Did you cover that? I'm sorry, I got distracted.
I did. So there were very unclear instructions, so much so that they ended up changing the instructions during jury deliberations to try and clarify the instructions. And they were sent back to re-deliberate multiple times. And that's not really the issue. The unclear jury instructions are an issue. The real issue was at the end when the mistrial was called. Basically what happened is the jurors came in, said I think it was the second or third time after they got an instruction, go and do your best. They came in and they said, sorry, we're still not in agreement. And here's the problem. The judge immediately says, okay, hung jury, mistrial, we're over, or mistrial, we're done. She just calls a mistrial. She doesn't call, she doesn't ask the defense or the prosecution whether or not they want the jury polled. She doesn't ask, is this a hung jury? Have you come to any agreement on any of the charges? Nothing, just mistrial, case dismissed, we're all going home. Literally that quick. And you can see the defense saying, well, wait a second, but it's too late. They didn't object fast enough. They didn't move fast enough. I think they were in shock. I don't freaking blame them, right? So then after the fact, some jurors reached out to the defense and said, we found her not guilty on the top charge, on murder. Where we couldn't find her not guilty is on the intoxication charge. That's where we were all debating. That's where we were hung.
Which is huge, though, by the way, because if it got hung on the second charge, but they dismissed the top charge, it could have been like you remember Daniel Penny. Maybe that's a bad analogy, but it makes me think of that, where with Daniel Penny, the juror was hanging on it, and so it went back to prosecution. Prosecution said, all right, fine, drop the top charge, let them haggle over the second. And it turned out in his favor. But in this case, even at the worst, she would have had an appeal on a much reduced charge. Or if they still hung on the second charge, then she'd only be going up for trial on a much lesser charge now, which would be better, correct?
Yeah, that'd be true. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a double jeopardy issue, and SCOTUS is deciding today whether or not to take up this case.
They should definitely, if the jury legitimately found her not guilty in the top charge, she should be that should be done. That should be 100% done, because that happens all the time.
Agree.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And the judge in this case refuses to voir dire these people, refuses to have them come in, refuses to deal with any of this. This judge is very, very state friendly, which I'm not always opposed to. And I don't always believe defense attorneys when they say that. In this case, that is the case. And so you speed forward to this trial. There's all sorts of issues with expert witness disclosure that are going on that people don't understand, that I've tried to explain. The defense has tried to explain. The judge doesn't understand it either, because she's a something. She really buys whatever the state feeds her, hook, line, and sinker. The state went off for 15 minutes during one of their motions saying we need to exclude the number one expert testimony in this case, which is an accident reconstruction company. And they were actually hired initially by the feds last trial. The feds had come in and investigated all of this. They ended up being a third party. They were hired by the feds to come and do expert reconstruction analysis on this case. And they came in and said, no, he wasn't hit by a car. This is not a car hit accident. There's a bunch of other weird facts and DNA issues. Like they found DNA on the victim's arm, and surprise, surprise, it's pig DNA. And everybody laughs, a cop has pig DNA on him. But the defense's argument is, wait a second, the family inside the house had a dog that could have been a police dropout dog Her name was Chloe. She was a German Shepherd, and she was known to be aggressive and had bit several times before. And if you look at the arm injuries, it looks like he got bit the crap out of by this dog. Additionally, he has 2 black eyes. When they find him, everybody agrees on some of these facts. So I'm going to lay down the facts that everybody agrees on. He has 2 black eyes by the time he's found. He has a giant egg on the front of his head, and he has a head injury on the back of his head. From here down, though, you're not seeing bruising, you're not seeing swelling, you're not seeing injury, except for his arm where he has the dog, what could be dog bites, scratches on his arm, or it could be from the car. Now, there's issues with, for anybody who thinks she's 100% guilty, if you don't also acknowledge that there are issues with the state and the way that they've recovered evidence, the games that they have played in court, and the sneaky stuff they've gotten away with the judge, you have another problem, okay? I can't talk to you. I won't talk to you. The lead investigator went looking through her phone for nudes, the defendant's phone for nudes, and texted his cop buddies about it.
He's been discharged since, right?
He has been fired since.
That's
from trial 1 to
discharged
trial 2.
from the department. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So he got fired for misconduct in this case because he was sitting there texting his buddies who were all witnesses in this case.
Now, will that help her? Because can they not bring up the fact that he's been fired for misconduct in this case? You know, I would think the defense should say, hey, you know what? You know, this guy has been fired, so you can't believe anything he says.
Well, you can even theoretically disqualify witnesses if they're talking to each other, they're talking about their testimony. That's a real possibility. Like witnesses, the reason why you don't let witnesses in the courtroom when other witnesses are testifying, so they can't align their testimony together. But if you have evidence that they were already doing that, that's a serious violation.
Oh, well, and with the third witness, Jen McCabe's friend, mutual friend between Jen McCabe and the defendant, she even admits that with her countless meetings with the prosecution to go over her testimony in preparation for this trial, she sat down with Jen McCabe, and Jen McCabe created a timeline together for them to get their testimony straight. She admitted this.
Wow. Now, I saw headlines flashing by because I haven't been following this.
Oh yeah. Well, do you see the judge? You're talking about the judge? I actually have it pulled up.
Oh, well, not that one, but hold that by. From what I understand, yesterday there was like a bombshell testimony from one of the witnesses that they could have essentially lied to the grand jury when this happened. I don't want to misrepresent it. I'm just going by headlines that flash by. So what happened? What was the big breakthrough yesterday with the witness, Dani?
So it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before, but it's that same, it may have been the day before. It may have been yesterday. I don't remember when she testified, but he literally asked her, this testimony doesn't reflect what you had in the grand jury, right? And she goes, yeah. And he goes, well, you understand that you could get into jail time, right? For misrepresenting your testimony, for having these discrepancies in testimony. And she goes, well, I was never told that.
Which is bonkers to hear, because it's like, so wait a minute, you have to be told that you got to tell the truth. That just, it's like, is that your mindset? Oh, I wasn't told I could go to jail. Well, no, I shouldn't have to tell you go to jail. You should tell the truth. I think you swore an oath.
Right. So during the grand jury testimony, she said that she overheard a conversation between the defendant and Jen McCabe, the woman who was in the house. Turns out on cross-examination, she didn't overhear it. Turns out, actually, on direct during the last trial, she admits that she was told this by Jen McCabe. She was told that Karen Reed had said this by Jen McCabe. That's called hearsay.
Yeah.
And then she admits it again on her cross-examination.
So it wasn't the defendant who said it; it was someone else who said it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if because hearsay has so many exceptions. Like it could fall into one of those. So it didn't fall into any of those. Like
because they could call. Hold on, they could call Jen McCabe, Nate. So I mean,
They can call
technically,
Gemma Cape. She's a witness in this
Well,
case.
but understand too, hearsay is very technical in terms of if I'm offering for the truth of the matter asserted. I can be offering it for a different reason and it not be hearsay. So I can say Eric said this, but if I'm offering it to prove something to be true, then that's one thing. But if I'm offering it for instance, to show how it affected the room or something like that, then that's okay, or motive or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like the case of at the time this person told their friends that they were assaulted, to prove the veracity that this isn't something that's made up down the road?
Yeah.
You can interview all the friends and say, did this person tell you something happened? Yes.
That may be a little border. All right, here's a clear example I used to give when I taught at the law school. Let's say I ask you, Eric, was it raining outside? And they ask, I'm in court, and they'll say, well, was it raining outside? I say, yes, Eric told me it was raining outside. Now, if I'm saying that to actually prove it was raining outside, then that's hearsay, right? Because I don't know.
But if you were saying that's why you had your jacket.
But if I said why I had my umbrella, then it's allowed because I'm not trying to prove it's raining outside. I'm trying to show why I actually had that umbrella or that jacket.
What your reasoning was. Okay.
Exactly. So that's the example.
Yeah, but the issue here isn't really the hearsay issue. The issue is she changed her testimony multiple times. And when she was asked this time, well, why'd you change your testimony? She says, well, this is the correct testimony, and I'm being honest this time. And last time it was unintentional, but also I misunderstood the question. And he read the question again and again. He goes, which part did you misunderstand? How could you have misunderstood this question? Right? And keep in mind, these two witnesses are what the prosecutor hanged their entire opening statement on.
Star witnesses?
They're star witnesses. So witness number one is the EMT, and allegedly, while there was life-saving procedures going on the victim, alleged victim, Karen Reed allegedly came over and said, I hit him. Okay? Allegedly this happened.
Very convenient.
Very conveniently, right?
Very convenient, yeah.
Well, during the first trial, he never said she hit him 3 times. He said that she said, I hit him twice. Okay. Now that would clear hearsay. He overheard it, but this is an admission, right?
Well, so party opponent admission. So
party opponent admission. So otherwise it would get in.
Yes.
But then on cross, this was so good. It was a master class on cross. I loved it so much. On cross, turns out not only did he meet with the prosecution 2 to 3 times to go over how many times he heard her say, I hit him. He testifies on cross. And that's all we talked about. And then on redirect, turns out they talked about a bunch of stuff and they watched video together. So then on recross, the defense attorney says, let's pull up the video. Let's look at it together. So they look at the video and he goes, so when did it happen that she came over to you and said, I hit him? So they're watching and he goes, it happened right there. But she's like on the other side of the street. And the whole time she's screaming at the top. She's actually the only one who seems to be concerned that this man is dead. Like she's losing her mind. She literally ends up getting admitted to the hospital for like emotional distress. Like she's lost it. And so she's screaming, but you never hear her scream, I hit him. And she's on the other side of the room or other side of the street. So then they come back. Okay. And the state comes back and says, well, the defense was really dirty. They didn't show you the video with the timestamps. Let's show you the video with the timestamps. So they show the video with the timestamps. Same thing. If actually the video with the timestamps makes it worse because it shows exactly when his colleague showed up and started performing life-saving procedures. He said from the time they started doing this, chest compressions, from the time they started to the time they loaded him up into the ambulance is the time that she came over and said, I hit him. In that video, when you see him start doing chest compressions, defendant's nowhere to be seen. She's not even in the shot. Okay. It gets better though. Okay. So they come back on recross and the defendant says, pull the original tape where he literally points out the exact moment that she allegedly came over and said, I hit him. Pull up the tape I pulled up. And the judge wouldn't let him, which is so gross. She's like, we're not playing the video. No legal justification, no basis, just we're not playing it again. So either he was lying about when she said, I hit him, or he was lying about what was occurring at the time that she said, I hit him. Then he starts to panic. This is the best part. The witness starts to panic and he goes, well, I was hearing a bunch of things. I could hear her screaming. And then the stupid prosecutor says, well, did she say it to other people? And he said, yeah, I could hear her saying it to everyone.
Well, then you could challenge the prosecutor to produce those other people.
Well, all the other witnesses did testify and have testified, and none of them said that.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, the judge not showing the video to go in the legal subject, could that be considered an error upon appeal or used in an appeal?
God, there are so many this case is so riddled with errors. There's the prosecution. So one of the issues right now in this case is the disclosure of communications with the accident reconstruction team from the last case. So in the last case, they were courting ARCA. ARCA is the name of the company. They were courting ARCA to do the reconstruction. The defense was. Because they said, hey, you agree with us. This wasn't an accident. Sounds great. How much do we owe you? Like, how much do we have to pay you? What is going to be all entailed? So they're courting them, right? You investigate your expert witnesses, right, Nate? Like, you don't just go hire an expert witness off the top of the list. You go and see who does what their level of experience is, and what you think their generalized opinion might be.
Well, you also want to make sure that they're going to testify on your side.
Well, and you definitely got to YD them before. But I would also say too, there's a service, because I've had there's a service that you use, and that service vets them and gives you their CVs and stuff like that, and then you do questions. So you don't just put them on the stand, but there's a service that actually goes through that for you. So this expert witness is big money too, because you get paid like huge money for testifying. You get huge travel expenses. So if you are labeled an expert, that's like you're talking about a minimum $100,000-$200,000 a year just and full travel expenses to just show up in court and say, hey, I know what I'm talking about.
You guys, there's a reason why Bronca does what he does. Okay,
Yeah.
It's good money. It's really good money.
Huge money.
So they're courting this expert witness. They're thinking, okay, we're going to hire them as an expert witness to come in and testify on behalf of the defendant. But then the feds show up. Okay. And they're conducting an investigation into the police department and into this case. And they're like, we will hire the expert. So they retain ARCA. So communications at that point cease.
So that's actually good, though, that the feds are hiring a disinterested expert, so to speak.
That's what the defense is thinking, right? Go ahead, feds. That makes us look better. 1, and 2, we don't have to pay you guys, right? You're not our witness. You're a third party witness, and it looks more neutral, and this is good for everybody. And it is more neutral. Well, here's the problem. They had these communications, these prior communications, then court starts or trial starts. And then somewhat erroneously, the judge puts down this order that says you can't contact the ARCA expert, who's this third party expert. Now, Nate, in my experience in civil law, anybody can contact the expert, but you have to CC your opposing side. Is that not the case with a third party expert in a criminal case?
Well, yeah, it's just like when it comes to that, if they're a witness, so you can all the same rules apply,
right.
But they're just not a fact-based witness, they're an opinion-based witness. They're just giving their opinion. So yes, you can contact them, and then anything that as long as both sides know about it. So I don't know why. So was one side barred from speaking to the other witness?
Yes, both sides were barred from speaking with the Fed's witness.
That makes that's
well. I guess if both sides are barred, then.
But
that's sort of fair, right?
No, that's not fair. It's trial by ambush.
It's trial by ambush by
it's like I don't know what he's going to say. I prepare cross-examination, direct examination based on so most people think the witness that appears on the stand is not the first time the lawyer speaks to them. The lawyer has probably spoken to them before that. Generally before that, unless you're like the prosecutor, sometimes that happens. But an expert witness, both sides should be able to speak to, just to figure out what's going on. So yeah, it's rare in that particular case. But I know, and for defense counsel, they do get to speak to all our witnesses, prosecutors.
100%.
We it's
Sometimes.
harder for us to be able to speak to their witnesses, but an expert witness you'll always be able to speak to and get what's up from them. So
that's what I figured. So
and you were a DA too, right? Or you were running, yeah. So but you were
well, I was running, but I never
DA,
actually
so,
practiced in the criminal side. I was in civil world, but I knew that that those rules. I
Yeah,
mean,
apply.
intuitively, it makes sense, right? These are expert witnesses. Yes, you're allowed to go meet with them, interview them, get testimony from them,
So
figure out what their opinion will be.
What did they conclude, or have they been up?
Okay, so the experts concluded this was not a car accident. There's zero evidence suggesting there's car. There's no way he could have sustained the injuries he did via a car accident.
This makes no expert said that.
Expert said that in the first trial.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay.
Now that specifically is exculpatory evidence for the defendant, right? So now that has to come in, or that's what's known as a Brady violation.
Coming to this trial, right?
It has to, because it's a Brady violation. It doesn't come in.
You would think. Hold on, it gets worse. So after the trial concludes, like 2 weeks after the trial concludes, by the way, the whole time the defense is handing over all of their communications to the prosecution, saying, hey, by the way, ARCA reached out to us. This is what we discussed, but they didn't hand over in the first trial their flirtation time, because they don't have to, because it was just flirtation. They hadn't hired them yet. There is no relationship. They're just seeing whether or not they want to hire them.
Is that an actual term, flirtation time?
No, Danny's making this up. I'm giving you guys.
I'm the lawyer. I just want to make sure.
Relationships in business make more sense if you make them relationships interpersonal.
Cool.
So until you sign a contract, until you put a ring on it, you can flirt. You can figure out, ask them all the questions, figure out whether or not you want to marry them, figure out whether or not you want to pay for them, all of that. There are no commitments, no promises, no nothing. Until something's signed, there's nothing. Until there's a ring on it, you got nothing, okay? Mm-hmm. Anybody can swoop in and grab up the expert, and that's what happened. So they stop flirting as soon as the expert gets taken up by the third party. They're not talking, okay? After the trial concludes, 2 weeks later, this is the weird part, ARCA sends a bill to the defense for their testimony.
Ooh.
And so the defense is like, bitch, this wasn't a throuple, okay? We were in bed. I mean, we were in bed. It was a fun party, but we weren't married to you. Have your husband pay for it. So they call the husband. They call up the feds. And they're like, hey, should we pay this bill? And the feds tell them, yes, pay the bill. And so they go, okay, sure, I guess. I mean, we all won here, so maybe we'll get reimbursement from the feds later. Now, it's important to note the attorneys did not know about what was going on. This was going on with the firm. So firm receives the bill. Attorneys are like, why are we getting the bill? Call the feds. The firm calls the feds, someone at the firm. And then the firm just pays the expense, because it's our duty, our obligation to make sure expenses are paid. So there wasn't really a ton of colloquy between the feds and the defense at that point, but it didn't matter. They got paid. Everybody's happy. They're all good. They then move forward. Now, here's important part, Nate. Mm-hmm. They were still retained by the feds until like January of this year. So long after expert witness disclosure rules would require their disclosure. So Eric, they're still married to the feds until January. As soon as their relationship is done and the feds say, we've come to a conclusion, we no longer need them, we're divorced, the defense quickly goes to hire them. Like, boom, like they have been waiting, right? They were texting. They were like, well, they weren't texting, but they were circling. They were like, hey, B, what's up? You want a second husband, right? And everybody knows the second husband's better, right? Like it should be a step up always. And if it's not, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a divorce attorney, give me a call. Anyway, so they come and hire ARCA. The prosecution jumps in and says, well, you didn't disclose them. They lied. The prosecution lies and says the feds gave us information and gave us all their communication. And we know that ARCA was colluding with the defense the whole time last time. And they never disclosed that. So they should be precluded in this case.
I thought they were flirting, not colluding. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. But they're flirting. Okay. They're cheating. They're hanging out, blah, 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 blah. So this is hilarious because the judge gets pissed off for reasons. Who knows? She literally says, I'm out of here, throws down her books or whatever is in her hand, and she like leaves the courtroom. We come back like 4 hours later, and then she's like, I want answers. Why didn't you disclose that you were cheating with ARCA to the defense? And the defense is like, Your Honor, we weren't. 1, 2, we disclosed to the prosecution all of our communications, that we had hired ARCA, everything during the last, like, we're the ones who gave over that documentation, not the feds. There was nothing hidden here. And the late disclosure is because we just hired ARCA, because ARCA just became single.
Okay. Wow. All right. So
sorry, that's a long story short.
No, that's fine.
They didn't break any rules, but the judge thinks that they did because the prosecution misled the judge to believe that somehow they have violated either a disclosure rule in timing or disclosure period. And now she's pissed off because the defense isn't handing over the flirtatious text from 2 years ago. Guess what? The defense was never under a legal obligation to keep those flirtatious texts ever, because they didn't end up hiring them. They weren't their expert witness. So some of them were deleted after 2 years, which is, it's not best practice. Best practice under ABA is you keep them for 5 years, depending on practice though. Defense practice is very different. If you're flirting with experts who you might retain, but you don't retain them, I don't see why they had to keep them legally. You don't.
If it's material, I think you may.
If it's material,
I think you could have. I would say, Danny.
Well, and that's the thing. Material, they turned over all the material communications when the order went into place. So everything that was there had been turned over at that point. Anything before then, they don't have. And so the state said, or the judge said, get ARCA to turn over their text messages. And ARCA's like, we don't have them. They're all deleted, which the expert witness wouldn't, because they were never hired by the defense at that point. So
because only reason why I'd be scared is because it can get you into that negative inference territory.
Well, and that's where it is.
You're in litigation. You know these things are relevant. Now all of a sudden they're deleted. So what I mean by negative inference, for the people who don't know lawyers speak, that means a judge can say whatever the worst possible thing those things could have said to hurt your case. That's what we're going to assume it's at, and that's the reason why we can't show them to you, because they don't want. So that's what I mean by negative inference territory, and that's the worst thing you want as a lawyer, because the negative inference could be she said on it that she killed him. You just don't know what it's going to say. So,
but this in context too. By the way, I don't mind the judge being suspicious. What I do mind is the judge finding that they somehow violated the rules, which they haven't, and that was intentional. Because even if they had, it clearly wasn't. Okay, they were the ones who volunteered all this. They were the ones who came forward with their prior flirtations and relationship, and they were the ones who were wanting to hire ARCA. The state wants to keep it out because it's so devastating to their case, obviously. Now, keep in mind, one of the key witnesses is a cop who destroyed his SIM card, broke it up, and dropped it on an Air Force base in a different jurisdiction, and he's being allowed to testify.
All right, so the trial is ongoing.
It's great.
So
hopefully we'll hear something next week, or have an idea that there will be some sort of verdict. We do have breaking news at the moment. I think I don't know. Nate has it.
Yeah,
I have it pulled up here.
Want to pull up the video? ABC News has done a hot video on it.
Yeah. Go ahead and pull it up, because it's literally breaking. And how often do you get to see judges arrested?
We have a state court judge arrested for intentionally helping. Well, I'll let you listen. Here it is.
In a now deleted tweet, FBI Director Kash Patel announced Judge Hannah Dugan was arrested because the FBI believes she, quote, misdirected federal agents, allowing a person residing in the country illegally to attempt to evade arrest. The tweet was posted for less than an hour before Patel deleted it, and it's unclear as to why he did so. The FBI arrested the Milwaukee County judge under suspicion of obstructing an immigration arrest. Patel said agents chased Eduardo Flores Ruiz down on foot, and he is now in custody.
So this is a sitting judge who's misdirecting federal agents from arresting someone who's violated the law, because you're here illegally, you're violating the law. She's like, This is insane, but it's only let me let the last minute.
Judge Dugan was previously under investigation after a string of attempted immigration arrests at the Milwaukee courthouse. Previous reports say Chief Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Carl Ashley said in a statement on April 18th, ICE agents showed up to the Milwaukee courthouse with an arrest warrant. Ashley says the officers identified themselves to security, presented the warrant that was copied, then went to the 6th floor where Dugan's courtroom is. The agents were asked to wait until the ongoing court hearing ended. Dugan clarified in an email at the time, quote, "A warrant was not presented in the hallway on the 6th floor." Ashley previously reported drafting a policy to give agents access to the courthouse. Authorities on the local and even presidential level have previously discouraged ICE arrest in places like courthouses, warning such actions could erode public trust.
Now, there's this is not the first one. That apparently in New Mexico there were a couple arrests too.
Yeah, I think so.
Another an ex-judge though and their spouse, I believe, were arrested in New Mexico. So this is.
I thought those were. I thought these are the same cases.
No, this one's this morning. That one's yesterday. So,
but all right. So one thing I just don't understand, and again, this may be my idiot MAGA part, because for some reason people say I'm schizophrenic with, well, not schizophrenic, I have multiple personality. I'm a Democrat on one end and a Republican on one end. I got TDS and I got that I love Trump, whatever. One thing I don't understand is that these people have broken the law. Am I wrong with that? Right? They've literally broken the law. In some cases,
from the jump,
right?
Yes,
right from the jump. So you're in here illegally. You've broken the law. The country now said, okay, you arrest these people. You send them through their process, their due process. They go in front of an ICE judge. ICE judge says, guess what? You got to go back home. See you later. Right? Now, all of a sudden, so why does half the country believe that these people have some type of right to be here in the country? Like these judges are giving up their whole legal careers and freedom for people who have broken the law to be in. Now, I understand, right? America, you want to come here, you want a better life for your family, but there is a legal way to do it, and it's an illegal way to do it. So why not, celebrate the people who do it legally? But why are we trying to pretend that the people who did it illegally are some like there was this case about the mom who was here illegally for like 20 years and broke like mad laws and she was arrested like 20 times. And they sent her behind back, and then she was like named Time Woman of the Year. It's like maybe I just have a mental blind spot, but these people are here illegally. They have broken the law, and the penalty, unfortunately, is you go back to your home country. What am I saying that's wrong? What am I? Maybe if Pisco was here, he'd be able to tell me. But what am I saying that makes no sense here? Right? I don't know. Do you guys agree, or how am I getting this wrong here?
I mean, I'm pretty hawkish on this, and immigration, whatever else. I'm happy to see judges arrested.
Yeah,
I mean, it is. I'd like to see more of it if they're breaking the law, because I feel like there's this attitude, and that's just my opinion, but like there's some sort of like a priest class, like they're the priests of law. They're so special and
Eric,
sacred.
No,
they're cardinals.
No, they are gods in the holy temple of the courthouse. I am telling you right now. And to a certain extent, they're not all that wrong. They control in their mind and in truth, they do control whether or not someone lives or dies. They control the amount of freedom someone has by the time they leave that courtroom. They are gods in their own minds. A lot of judges feel that way.
But even to these idiot Democrats, though, I would say this: change immigration to drug dealer or something else, right? Well, this would be a no-brainer. But all of a sudden, it's a we got to think about it. No, there's nothing to think about.
Well, you got gang members. I mean, no worries, mate. I mean, how many people are now floating down there? I think there's somebody else, another congressperson who's in El Salvador, saying that they refuse to leave without their hero with them. The Maryland
using our tax dollars, by the way, to do this.
All right, so that case is so funny because so like last time I hate bringing up Pisco when he's not here, but he'll be here next week, so we can talk to him about this. But okay, so the left, like I was in an argument with someone else about this too. He is not a drug dealer. He is not a drug dealer. He is not a drug dealer, right? He's not on MS-13. He's got the tattoos everywhere, MS-13. Essentially, and so the argument is on the left is that no court has found that he was part of MS-13.
Right.
But think about this. No court has ever said that I'm a black man. Does that mean it's not true? right? Because you can just see it. It's just obvious, right?
Your
So
Honor,
the
I would
court
like
have
you to
to
take
say-
judicial notice that my skin is in fact black and that I am a black.
But it's
Right?
true, yeah. For
I
the
mean, if it was
record, can we
Rachel
point out-
Dolezal, though, if it was Rachel Dolezal, though, Nate, that would be an
That
argument.
would it would be
Here's
a
the thing.
question. Like,
They didn't
really?
even need to on
Or
MS-13
Sean King.
grounds because he was already arrested prior for DV. And there was
He
a
got the
protective
DV.
order against him
Yes.
for DV. And that's all that's required under Trump's new policy is an accusation of having committed a violent crime. You're out.
Oh
You're
my
out.
God! It's just I don't know. I understand we're thinking you're on the right side here, but it's just I just think it's crazy the way
I don't understand
know.
it, Nate.
I don't know.
I don't understand it because I'm with you. They wouldn't do this for any other crime. They wouldn't do this for any other crime. Well, actually, I think they would. I think there are a few crimes where they would allow this to happen. Specifically, we see this happen in family law and we see this happen
That's
in
true.
DV cases all the time.
Yeah,
Judges get
that's true.
passes, they house and defend criminals, criminal activity. They sit there and say, well, yeah, he hit her, but it wasn't that bad. She
Or the
didn't
reverse.
die.
There are a lot of women. Chandler Remington has done a ton of work on this, on abusive females.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a huge problem in family law. There's a film, it's about almost 10 years old now, called The Red Pill. I don't know if you've ever seen that with Cassie J, but
Where she goes into men's issues, is that the one?
yes.
Yeah.
And there's some very troubling, issues in that, like the default is automatically the mother, they can do no wrong, especially when it comes to family law, things like that. I mean, maybe it's not everywhere, but it's pretty predominant, one direction. But there's also a lot of abuse cases. Like whatever happened, Nate, with that TikTok girl or whatever she was, or OnlyFans girl that killed that guy, who was much bigger than it, but there was that video of her just
Courtney
going
Clenny,
psycho on him.
she stabbed him to
Yeah.
death. And here's the thing, you guys know why though. Can I just say this? I'm sorry, I'm not anti-man, and I'm not going to pretend like there aren't abusive, crazy, psycho women in this
Of course
world
there are.
who get away with shit all the time. They do. They definitely do. Lori Vallow, okay, her case just
That's this
concluded.
week.
She was found guilty of murdering her former husband. But here's the thing, or conspiring to murder her former husband. He went to the cops and said, she's nuts. She's psycho. She wants me dead. They did nothing. They did nothing. She went in and she was like, I don't know what he's talking about. He's an abuser. She used the system. As a matter of fact, when he got shot in an alleged self-defense, right?
Mhm.
She was brought in for a victim's advocate. She was brought into the victim's advocacy room and interrogated there. And she was assigned a victim's advocate. So she got away with a ton, and she ended up murdering, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4 people. She was convicted in 4 separate murders, 6 deaths surrounding her. I think the other 2 obviously were also murder. So women get away with stuff all the time. But do you guys know what the leading cause of death for pregnant women is in the US?
Mm-mm.
You can look it up. Everybody go
Probably
look it up.
spouses.
Homicide.
Sure.
Oh wow.
I mean,
Homicide
I'm
is
not
the
surprised.
leading cause of death for pregnant women in the United States.
What do they
This
say?
is
You get
so
20
there's a reason why there's more emphasis focused against men, because
It was-
men by and large are more aggressive.
There was something
I
I
agree with you
saw, it was like-
completely. I agree completely that men are more aggressive overall.
Physically.
Probably 80-20,
Physically.
90. But the problem is that the defaulting is so dangerous. Like you pointed out with Lori Vallow and things like that.
Right.
It's like, also there are a lot of people who are crying grape after things like the baseball player who's been through some certain hell. Now, that's what I'm talking about. It's just the injustice of some of these. And then when even after they're proven in court or whatever, it still doesn't matter. He still doesn't have a job, still doesn't have anything, even though, he's proven every which way that she's liar, in every way. And that is the problem. I totally agree with you about the pregnant women. A lot
And
of
it's
that.
not just the pregnant women. Look at the TikToker or the influencer Gabby Petito.
Yeah.
Look at the Gabby Petito case. That
Yeah.
was here in Utah, in St. George, where the cops were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. You have this psycho girlfriend." And she admits to being violent, but he admits to being violent. So why the hell is he being treated like the victim when he admits to also having been violent? I think they have a very strong case against the city of St. George or Moab, and I hope they win.
Oh, you know, I don't know. I talked to different cops about that, and like the behavior panel, that there just was not. It's one of those horrible circumstances where there's just not enough there to take
at that time,
make an arrest at that time, and in a way, they're having to live through their own personal hell about it afterwards. And Nate, you could speak to this, right? I mean, have you run into scenarios where you're certain in your gut that something really bad is going on, but you just do not have the
legal authority to do it? Yeah. So yeah, because probable cause is a hell of a thing to have. So generally, well, just so when I was in law enforcement, we had just gone through a phase. So back, especially with domestic violence cases, what you would generally get is cops would go to the house. The wife would be beat to hell. The guy would be sitting there and his wife beat her. And then you'd go to the wife and say, hey, you're going to press charges against the husband. She'd say, no, I fell. This is this. Now, unless she tells you that these injuries came because he hit her, then generally you don't have probable cause, because that makes her the witness. And then these injuries came from an illegal act. So that gives you probable cause to arrest the husband. So in domestic violence cases previously, that wasn't enough for probable cause. As soon as she said it didn't happen or whatever, even though you saw all this evidence of abuse, but she says it happens in some other way that's reasonable, then you couldn't do anything. So New York specifically, and actually most states now, have changed the law. So let's say you do go to a domestic violence call and you see one person that scratches and beat up, male or woman, then the police treat that itself as probable cause, because you've already made a call for domestic abuse. That call would have the reason why we're there. Then you separate and you can make the arrest just based on what you observed. You don't need that person to actually say it. So that's how the law has developed in that particular aspect, where somebody's beat all to hell, you see injuries, so you can still make the arrest. So I think in Utah, though, I'm not sure if they've gotten to that point where they're doing it. So in that particular case, but generally in that case, if you had one person with injuries and both people there, you would either arrest both or you would arrest the one without the injuries. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, and some of it too, Nate, I'm guessing is like you just throw them in the can to cool off overnight. Type of thing, they're going to leave in the morning, just kind of like to separate them for prevent.
I don't care what things. I don't think in a lot of cases with DV that either party necessarily needs to be arrested, but there needs to be an agreement that someone leaves. That has to happen. That has to happen
during the transition from arrest to so that was in the transition period when they started recognizing that this happened. That was like the second part of it. It was like, okay, now instead of arresting someone, we're going to just take the husband outside. He's got to go for a walk. So you had to go for a walk. The cops would go and walk them around and all that stuff. And then, but then the guy go back in. Oh, you call the cops and beat her again. So that's when it developed into, we got to arrest this person, have clear, have a document that this happened, and then move forward from there. Because that was the power. We're going to just separate them for a little while. But then
when I said little while, I meant like overnight. Like,
it's got to be
like sleeping off the drunk in the jail.
But don't forget, that's a seizure. Like when you arrest, that's a seizure. So
here's the problem I have is the
standard. You offer to take them somewhere else and say, hey, you got to stay away from the night.
But they would have to do that on their own. Like they would have to agree to that. Because a seizure, if I tell you can't go somewhere or move you someplace, I'm seizing you. So that now brings that constitutional issues.
Well, hold on. I mean, you can get a restraining order. Now, does it have to be the wife that gets a restraining order? I mean, could the police say, I see enough stuff and ask for a judge for a restraining order for a period of time? Like in the sense that you could go anywhere on the planet, but here.
So there are criminal protective orders. This is what I was just about to say. There are issues I have with the standard for protective order. There are criminal protective orders, which is instituted by the judge at the hearing. So that requires an arrest, generally speaking.
Yes.
That requires an arrest. That's beyond probable cause. At that point, you're arrested. Okay. Like there's enough of a case there that the judge can go ahead and restrict you right there under a criminal protective order. Mm-hmm. Then there's a civil protective order, which is where the wife has to, or the husband, has to go to an attorney or has to speak with their victim's advocate. If you guys don't know, go figure it out in your state. please talk to the courts. They will help direct you in the correct way to get a protective order if that's what you need to be safe, male or female. Okay. You and children, they also get protective orders. They are separate. So you need to go and apply for all of them. Here's the problem. It's by clear and convincing evidence that you're awarded a protective order. So the judge will determine initially whether or not they have enough evidence to put a protective order in place based on the allegations that are raised either by you or in the police report. They'll issue a temporary protective order, and then they'll have you come in for a hearing, usually within like 10 to 15 days. It sort of depends on the availabilities of the parties and what the court is available for. So within 10 to 15 days, they'll have a hearing on that protective order, on the temporary one. And the issue is, do we expand the protective order? Do we keep it? Do we get rid of it altogether? Is there actually evidence? It's an evidentiary hearing. So you show up, and here's the problem. The standard in civil law is a preponderance of the evidence, okay? Meaning 50% plus a feather, it more likely happened than not. And there's more likely a risk to this person's life than not, or to serious injury, or etc. In criminal court, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. You have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt so-and-so did something to you. Clear and convincing is the standard that no one knows what the hell that means. And so that's where judges get it wrong often. And I can't even blame judges most of the time. But I'll tell you what, I have had some serious cases, Nate, where protective orders really should have been issued because, and they weren't. And it wasn't for lack of evidence. It wasn't for us not trying. It's just one judge feels bad for this guy, you know? Oh, well, he's an alcoholic. Oh, well, he deserves a second chance. Oh, well, you know, it wasn't that big or serious of an issue. I don't buy that your client is seriously afraid for their life or safety. And then, sure enough, 2 weeks later, he comes back into the home. Not even 2 weeks later that day, comes back into the home and beats the shit out of my client. It's happened before, multiple times. These are a problem. These are a serious problem. Protective orders are not ideal. We need to figure something out. So I don't know where Eric went, but
yeah, I think he went to the bathroom. So my wife is just calling me real quick. Hold on.
But anyway, back to what you were talking about, Nate. Judges protect abusers all the time. That's the only other area of law I see this being an issue. It apparently in immigration and in family law issues or DV cases.
You know, it's funny. I wanted to play an interesting game with the panel, but Eric is gone. But me and you can start it off. This is because we were talking about this type of craziness. You know, I do crazy cases. Oh yeah, we definitely gotta hook up again for the MSNBC case. Did you see they settled the womb collector case?
No. What did they do? Okay, well,
they settled the womb collector case for like $30 million. This guy got like paid, and you predicted it too. You're like, he's gonna get paid. I was like, I don't know, Danny's going crazy. But you called it. You called the womb collector case. And
which case is
like, we gotta update the case. That video did like 400,000 views. It was like insane on stuff. But yeah, the womb collector got paid by MSNBC. They admitted they lied. They lied about everything. So it was
maybe we should stop calling him the womb collector.
That's true too. Well, it's the womb collector case because that's what they're lying about, the womb collector case. But
hold on. When you do that, if he won all that, is it technically further defaming him if you call him that name?
Well, here we're joking.
Here we're collector case.
It's a reference to the case.
Yeah. No, I understand that, but I'm saying if other people keep calling him that, are they setting themselves up?
Yes.
Yeah, they could be. Yes.
Yeah.
If everybody else called him the womb collector, but then nobody at MSNBC is calling him the womb collector anymore. I can bet you that. All right. So let me introduce this first case. Now, so I'll show you 3 cases, and in these 3 cases, we're going to say how much is this person going to get paid. So this first case, the police are saying that the person that someone has assaulted them to the point where they had to arrest this person. So let me play the clip, and you'll see the assault, and you'll see the person, and then at the end we'll say how much should the plaintiff in this case get. So here is the first case. Let me put it up on the screen.
Oh, this would be fun.
Yes. So here's the first case. Let me put it up on the screen so we can all see the madness. Oops. Is it full screen? Nope, it's not full screen. All right, here we go.
You've got to add to the screen. Yeah.
I will. I'm adding it right now.
There we go. All right.
You take me. Hey, sure. I just hit you again. What the you do about it?
Only on 10 tonight, camera video showing the arrest of a quadriplegic man accused of ramming officers with his motorized wheelchair. He's a recording artist who lives in Southwest Miami-Dade.
Brian Tomasta first told locals that police got it all wrong, but body cam video appears to tell a different story. Local 10's Janine Stanwood is live in Miami with the exclusive. Janine.
Police say it's battery. That quadriplegic man says that's not the case. And now we see the video.
So take me. Hey, sure. I just hit you again. What the you do about it?
For the first time, we are seeing body camera video when Miami-Dade police say they were assaulted by a quadriplegic man. A case so unusual, even the judge at first appearance seemed surprised.
I have truly never seen a case like this.
It happened May 1st. Police were called to the Southwest Miami-Dade home of Brian Tomasta.
Hold on, pause the music so we don't get killed on that.
All right.
Okay, so
And his mother, seen here in red, were involved in an argument. But when mom is put in handcuffs, this happens.
So obviously, the police arrested him for multiple counts of assaulting a police officer because he rammed his wheelchair into
the
the cop.
chat's having fun with the battery aspect.
battery. Yeah, so he was arrested. So the question is, should he get paid? What do you guys think?
No.
Do you think that was a battery? Now he's going to sue for unlawful arrest, blah 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 blah. That the police did him dirty. What do you guys think? Do you guys?
I think that there should be nothing should. We should not exchange any money whatsoever. I don't think he should be charged for battery. I think they should drop the charges, and his lawsuit should be tossed out too. Reason why is, honestly, he really was not threatening. It's like there has to be a degree of. Correct me if I'm wrong. You have to feel genuinely threatened or that you're in danger. Would you not agree? And that's such a ludicrous. It's like he's an asshole. I don't think you should get any money, but I think the whole thing should just go away. That's just my opinion.
My turn.
Yeah, go ahead.
College Park Police.
This isn't just an assault case, and that's why I say in some jurisdictions, you're right, Eric. If it was just an assault charge, you need to have some fear of bodily harm. It has to be intentional, and you have to have some reasonable fear. Okay, that's in some jurisdictions. Utah's one of those jurisdictions, so we would separate it into assault and battery. It appears that in this case, those two go inside. Okay, battery, you don't need that. You don't need that. You just need the defendant intending to cause harm and taking affirmative steps to cause harm, and then making some physical connection. It doesn't even have to be with your body. It could be with sunglasses, okay? So I go to hit you, and I hit your sunglasses off, and I offend you, or I blow smoke in your face. Are you actually injured by being blown smoke in your face? The answer is no. But is there still a battery? The answer is yes, okay? So my guess, Nate, is not only does he not recover, but he has to pay a fee and a fine.
Fine would be good
for battery against the officer, which he admitted in the video. I hit you, I'll hit you again. Am I right?
Yes, yeah. I think. Well, we'll see, because the case isn't going. They're doing the civil thing, but we'll see, because technically you do have a battery. He did ram the thing into the police, but then technically police arresting someone who he's not a threat to the police in any way. No. So then you kind of have that balance of.
I'll bite your legs
So it
off.
sounds like you agree with me then, Nate, that it's kind of like just the whole thing is a wash in a way.
It does seem like a wash.
Probably the state
it's,
will let it go, yeah.
It's one of those cases where you think, oh my God, I can't believe this actually happened. But this is the world we live in. Here is the second case.
All right.
So the second case also involves someone who is in a wheelchair.
Who's now at 7 a minute?
But this is just wrong, John Gary. They should give him the
At
chair.
the same time I did.
I gotta open my door, but I'm going to show you. We're going to play the clip, and you're going to see what happens to this guy who's in a wheelchair and he's accused of something. Well, you know what? Let me play the clip. You'll see it yourself.
All right, open it on the screen.
Oh,
So.
gotta open it on the screen.
I love
remember,
this game.
we're saying how much should he get? Here it is.
Or if
Atlanta Police Department now under fire for how it investigated an alleged attack and home invasion.
So what happened?
He kicked in the door. I ran. He choked me out.
An Atlanta News First investigation uncovered evidence that woman may have fabricated her story. Investigative reporter Andy Parati found it led to the arrest of a man who says he is innocent.
536, just confirming you're advising signal 20, front door.
College Park police respond to a home in June 2024.
Oh, thank God.
All right, how you doing?
After Catherine Jensen says her ex-boyfriend attacked her minutes before they arrived.
So what happened?
He kicked in the door. I ran. He choked me out. Tried to get the keys from my hand of my truck.
So he grabbed you by your neck?
Mm-hmm. Handle him myself. I'm too small.
You say he kicked the door in?
He did.
Charles Reed is the man Catherine claimed broke into her home and assaulted her.
She said I kicked in the door. And why is that a problem? Because I'm in a wheelchair and have been for 25 years.
Oh, Charles cannot move his legs.
Now, he's in a wheelchair. He's been in a wheelchair for 25 years. Now, she said he even got away on foot. So, obviously, he went to the police department to turn himself in. So, the police department, remember, the police department has the evidence. He's kicked in the door, chased the woman down the street, choked her out, and then he runs away on foot. Here's what happens when he goes to the police department.
According to the body camera video, Officer Belletti questioned whether he was actually disabled.
Unfortunately, you do have the warrant out for your arrest, so I'm going to have to place you into custody.
Is this a joke?
Charles warned the officer putting handcuffs on would likely make him fall because of his paralysis.
I'm sitting there literally exactly like this in my chair. And so he handcuffs me and I'm like, hey, like, just FYI, like, I can't move.
I literally can't. I don't have muscle control.
It's too late.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I mean, I could have broken my hip and died like very quickly.
How did they respond?
They literally sat there and just watched me writhe on the ground.
The officer still didn't believe Charles was disabled. Neither did his supervisor, who never put his eyes on Charles before saying this.
It's a ruse, man. So, I mean, it's an obvious attempt to not to go to jail. So
a fellow officer disagreed.
Might need to call the district attorney's office, because if the door was kicked in, he didn't kick it in.
Finally, Officer Belletti admits he could be wrong.
Because now it's looking like she might have made a false report.
So, but now, just to end this, so you guys understand with the full context, they arrested him anyway.
Oh my God.
They arrested him anyway. And then they eventually had to drop the charges because it was physically impossible for her to commit the crime. And the woman eventually said this. This is what she said.
Man, how's this impact? I can edit my mental state and physical trauma in that moment work to confuse me. Please contact me at your convenience so I can edit the information in the report and clear the name of an innocent man.
Now, also, she had already been previously arrested for filing false police reports before in the past. So, question is, should the guy in a wheelchair recover any money? And
obviously,
how much?
yes.
If he recovers, how much are we looking at? Talk to me.
I mean, obviously he should. And, you know, my personal feeling is like $1 million or more, just to humiliate the department. But I doubt he'll get that much. So I don't know, but we'll see. But he absolutely should get paid. There could have been potential injuries. I mean, they went out of their way to screw this up over and over. You know, it's like, I feel like every stupid misstep, you know, like the fact that she's lied before, the fact that they let them fall on the ground, the fact that it's like they did everything to double down. So I think the verdict should be, you know, whatever the verdict, you know, is, if it's like, say, 50,000, then they double down. So now make it 100,000, then they doubled again. So now 200,000. I think it should be cumulative in that way. but that's my weird justice.
So you think he's going to win, huh? You definitely think he's
What-
going to win.
What
I think it's going to
jurisdiction?
settle out of court.
This is Georgia. Fulton County.
Okay.
Mm.
So we have Georgia jurisdiction. So immediately the payout drops significantly. The guy's white. The victim in this case is white.
Exactly. I didn't want to say that.
Plaintiff is white. And the cops are going to argue immunity, is my guess. They're going to say we had reason to investigate. We had reason to believe he was a liar, pants on fire.
Well,
But don't
other than
forget,
25 years in a wheelchair.
Yeah, but
I mean,
one
it's
cop, but just for context too, the cops were confused. One cop said obviously he couldn't commit this crime. He couldn't kick the door down, chase the woman down, and obviously run away on foot. Now, even though we do have probable cause because she said it,
believe
the fact
her.
of the matter is that your eyes show
Correct.
it's impossible. So now that could overcome something like that because you essentially have that kind of there's a function in law where if something is just so obvious, it's not negligent anymore. It's essentially intentional.
Well, I would think so,
right?
Nate. And by the way, somebody in a wheelchair for 25 years, their legs very likely are atrophied.
That's
and
yeah, that was
obviously not functional. If you could, I've seen many people in wheelchairs, and they, they're if they've been in there a long time, their legs are shrunken, or are very spindly because they never get any exercise. So I have a feeling it was probably extremely obvious to anybody with a lick of sense. But it's Fulton County.
In the law, we have a term called res ipsa loquitur, meaning the thing speaks for itself. Okay. You look at it, it's pretty obvious. Okay. This is a no bueno. And on top of that, this guy is on the ground writhing in pain. So they had not only constructive knowledge that they could have come to by just looking at him, they had actual knowledge as he's telling them, I've been in a wheelchair and I've turned myself in. Okay. At a certain point, something
warned them.
in these idiots. Now,
He even warned them, saying, I will
Several times.
fall. And everything
Several
else.
times.
So that's like, to me, abuse in an arrest.
Yes.
Letting
Yes.
them fall on the ground.
So the question is not does he recover? I think the answer is yes, he's going to recover. The question is how much. My guess is he didn't die. He didn't lose a limb. He didn't, no teeth were blocked out. No property was damaged. Is it embarrassing, humiliating? Yes. Was it an unlawful arrest? Yes. I would say recovery, I'm going to put at 100,000, not to exceed 500,000. Now, my personal
What about
opinion.
punitive damages?
So my personal opinion where it should be is around 50 million. I am so fucking sick. I don't mean to cuss, but I am so fucking sick of cops abusing the handicapped and the infirmed in our country. It is out of fucking control. Okay. It's not just this case. There's the black guy who I'm sure, Nate, maybe that's one of the cases you're going to show is the black guy who gets pulled out of the car and he's like, my legs don't work.
Yes.
Okay. It's not just him. There was a cop just recently here in Salt Lake who went and cut the blisters off a homeless guy when they were collecting his body as like a hazing ritual. These people are sick. There are some sick mother effers in this world, and I've seen it. They discriminate against my mom who has burn scars all over her face. They discriminate against, it is awful. So I hope he recovers 50 million plus, but my guess is somewhere between 100 to 500,000.
I think they'll settle it out.
Yeah,
I think because you don't want that to go to trial.
No,
well, no. You don't
do
want
not want that to go to
No.
trial. You'll just say, hey, will you take 100 grand, 200, whatever, 1 to 5, like Danny said. I think it'll be a settlement. It's got to be enough to pay the lawyers. You guys have to get your bite.
I've seen
then
cops
hopefully he
scream
can
at
take
deaf
some
people.
home.
Okay. I've seen cops scream at deaf people. I've seen cops literally turn to blind people and say, well, why couldn't you see him? Why didn't you die? Okay. I've seen some stupid shit out there. I'm tired of it.
There was one with the deaf guy, and the cops was like, why didn't you do what we told you to do? He's like, because I'm deaf. The guy's like, oh, he's deaf. I can't hear. He can't hear. Oh, so yeah. No,
wow.
the last incident that I wanted to show. Now this one's been in the news. Everybody probably knows about.
I think I shared it on X.
Huh?
We don't know yet.
Say it again.
Oh, you're not going to tell us how much. Oh, we don't know how much he's going to recover.
No, because he's suing right now.
How much?
Right. So this is something we'll have to revisit on the show later.
Both of those cases we're going to have to revisit because in both of those cases, those people are suing the police departments right now.
How much do you think he'll recover?
I think you're looking at least I think it's going to go to settlement, and I think it's going to be about $1 million settlement. The reason why is because it's not the issue with the case is not the facts, it's the publicity. The cops look dumb, they look stupid. So that is the thing I think you're trying to overcome if you're the DA's office. And then the DA's office also is implicated because they call the DA's office and ask them about it. They're like, we'll just arrest them. But when you have something that's physically impossible.
Oh yeah. Well, see,
then
that's what I'm saying.
So
that matches what I was saying.
Oh,
Nate.
I missed
double
that.
down, double down, double down, double down. Every time that there's another instance, to me, that adds to the overall punitive.
Take race out of it. That's it.
I'm not even talking about race.
No, take race out of it. It's $1 million recovery. Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm just saying, just like, essentially it's like having somebody with no arms saying that, hey, he armed robbery. Like,
punched
he
me.
had no arms, right?
Wait, what?
Yeah, so
wait,
you arrest him anyway. You arrest him anyway.
Did you say that was Fulton County?
That's Fulton County, yeah. It's
and no one's surprised. Literally, no one is surprised.
No one is surprised.
Where's Phil Holloway? Phil, come represent your peeps.
Well, this is the last.
Phil was a cop there too, by the way. You're not the only cop lawyer, Nate. Phil was also a cop.
Here's the last one. This has been in the news, but I thought it was just funny. Someone did a AI version of it. So listen to it, and we'll laugh at it afterwards. But the question is, how much will they recover? How much do you think they can get? Now, this is not from the state. This is from a personal individual. So here it is.
Okay.
I think white women are as great as any other one.
Oh.
But I'm not going to act like I'm not scared of them. I have a reason to be scared. You could be Kang the Conqueror, and they could take your rabbit ass down in 2 weekends.
Well, what, Gabby?
You're coming to LA tomorrow?
Yes.
Well, I don't know why you want to go out.
Don't worry about it, Gabby.
Well, okay.
I saw this online.
Okay, what?
Well, I'm not really interested in getting choked, so I guess we're going.
I might choke you in public. Big black guy chose small white woman.
It's not a good look, Shannon.
Not a good look that you do what they think you did to me.
To my family, friends, supporters, and colleagues, I want to speak to you directly.
So now, Shannon Sharpe.
Okay.
No, that was the audio record. That was the actual audio recording, but dubbed over AI.
Okay.
What do you guys think? Is she going to get paid?
That was her?
That was literally her, and that was the actual recording.
Dude, that was so creepy. I was going to complain about the AI they used for her voice.
No, that was her voice.
Okay, that is very disturbing. That is somebody setting somebody up. I'm sorry.
The only thing that was different was the fact that she's the visual. So the first part was the Cat Williams interview. He actually did say that Kang the Conqueror was the that was what's his name? The guy who was in the Marvel movies. He was like the new villain. What's the black guy's name? I forgot his name. He also did Creed 3. But anyway, that guy, he was found guilty of like minor assault. Then they took the actual audio and made that. So now she's looking for 50 million. They offered her 10. She said no. Do you think she gets paid? And she says she has there's a lot more audio like that.
Dude, she was on something, like in the chat or whatever. I just don't believe her. That's not enough for me to believe her.
I think it was a setup. Jonathan Majors, yeah.
What was his response? I couldn't hear his response after she said, I don't feel like being choked.
Yeah, I can rewind it. But this is the real. I think it was hold on.
Well, okay.
Okay, what?
Well, I'm not really interested in getting choked, so I guess we're going.
I might choke you in public.
Did I choke you in public? Is that what I mean?
I may choke you in public.
Oh, yeah, I may choke you in public. Big black guy chokes small white woman. That's what he says. She says, I don't want to be choked. He says, I might choke you in public.
Then she says it's not a good look. And then what's his response?
And he said it's not a good look that you did something.
But you did something to me earlier. Yes. But now remember, these are all snippets of longer conversations. So we don't know what's being said before this, after this, and also there are text messages in which you can tell she is actually saying things like, "Hey, I want you to put a big black baby in me. I want you to choke me out, daddy," that type of thing. So to me, the whole situation does look like a setup, like he's been set up.
Or
She's
consensual
19,
with regret.
56, yeah. And so what it seems like happened in this case, for those who don't know, is that Shannon Sharpe unfortunately met this 19-year-old. They were banging. He's 56. Then there was a sex tape that came out. It wasn't a sex tape. He hit go live on Instagram, and he was having sex with a woman. That happened to be some other woman while he was dating this woman. And she got upset that, hey, you're banging somebody behind my back, and I thought we were exclusive. The next thing you know, a couple of months later, all of these things come out. And so now, and also just to be clear, the claim is that they, from what I understand, I may be off, but she's saying that they had a consensual sexual relationship all through this time, but there were 2 instances in which the relationship was actual blank. And those 2 instances in which she's suing him out. All the other times were good, even before and after the blank. But in other words, he blanked me on this day. Then we had 6 20 times after that. Then he blanked me on this day, and we had
which I find her very questionable. If he does pay, then he probably deserves for being stupid. So I'll say that you can get him with a stupid tax, but I don't find her super credible. That's just my opinion.
Go ahead, Danny.
Listen, I don't know how this is all going to turn out. Ladies and gentlemen, please stop choking each other. Okay? Please stop choking each other. Unless you're going to get written and video consent every single time. Even then, there is always going to be an allegation of coercion. Stop choking each other. Rule number 1. Rule number 2. And I don't care how much corn makes it look fun. Don't do it. Okay? It's dangerous. You don't believe me? Ask Robin Williams. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2.
Too soon.
That was probably too soon. Rule number 2. Don't go live during a sex scene with anyone. Okay. Did woman sneaky link. Okay. Alleged sneaky link.
Yes.
Did she know that they went live on video?
No, it was an accident. Phone hits the bed, it goes live by accident.
Because I think she may have a better claim against him than the second woman. But then here's the issue that the second woman's going to have. Second woman being the first woman, the 19-year-old.
Yeah.
Oh, and finally, don't date teenagers if you're 56 years old.
Well, that's why I said he deserves a stupid tax.
Like, what the? 56 years old. Okay, that should have been clue number 1. 56 versus 19. Never a good look. Okay. And I'm speaking as someone who historically dated older men, all older men. I don't think I ever dated someone within my age range. My husband's 9 years older than me. That he's like the youngest I dated. I preferred older men. They've gone through drama. I like it. I like courtship. I like romance. And older guys tended to be more romantic. They were what I was looking for. That being said, if you're dumb enough to date a 19-year-old, dumb enough to air your friggin' sexcapades online accidentally, you're kind of setting yourself up for the dumb tax.
There we go.
That being said, I completely agree with you. The tone of her voice and the timing, the way she's doing it, it is a setup, 1,000%. She's sitting there with a recording. Like, I love that in the AI, she's like selfie recording because that's exactly what it sounds like. So, I would need more evidence. I would need a lot more evidence. I would not settle if I were him. I would take it all the way because he's resigned, hasn't he?
He's resigned. Yeah,
Yes.
he stepped down, and he's trying
Well,
to.
they were going to fire him anyway. I mean, we're talking ESPN.
Yeah, but
Disney.
I would
Disney? No way. He's not that important.
I would defend myself. I mean, I don't think if there were 2 times where she said no, the issue's going to be with consent confusion, because if she had consented to rough sexual encounters before and then after,
that's the really weird part. It's like, I understand at the end, it's like, hey, this happened to me. We split up. We tried to get together. It happened again. We're done. But no, if
Right.
it's like, oh, it was so bad and this bad incident happened, but no, we were cool with it after that, and had intercourse many other times, and then, oh wait, I didn't like it this time. So yeah, I think that the consensual confusion is a very legitimate
That's a huge problem.
statement, especially if it's abuse or if it's a BDSM type of a relationship. So it's already that they're saying, hey, rough play is cool until it's not cool. It doesn't make sense.
Just like Nate is accused of being a MAGA Republican and a super, Bernie supporter, left wing commie.
What's your hold on, Nate? Say it. Say it. This is what country?
MAGA country. That's right. Nigerian MAGA.
He knows the way. So,
But
with that said, though, I have to go because I have a hard out.
No,
well, I
that's
actually have a
fine.
hard out
We're
with
wrapping
Chris.
up right now. Anyway, Danny, what do you have?
I'm
coming
not a
up?
feminist. I'm not the feminist you all think I am. Women can have implied consent. We are not children, okay? If you're going back into the bedroom with him after he's already allegedly raped you, there's a problem there. There's a problem with you. Get some help, okay? He needs some help, obviously. I'm covering Lori Vallow still. She did a post-conviction interview that I want to cover. And Karen Reed all the time. Tonight is my baby shower stream. You guys are invited if you want to come.
Yay, congratulations.
So we'll play games and I'll show off my belly and we'll do some baby mama dancing. It will be a ton of fun.
You have been a queen of hiding that belly. I will say that though. You have been like, I mean, I know she's pregnant, but I can't see anything. Like you have your camera angle perfect.
Nate,
I've been trying to hide my belly too, and I'm not even pregnant. But you,
Well, yeah.
Have ever been told, I went to see my boss yesterday, my ex-boss, to let him know I'd be willing to do some part-time work. And the first thing he says to me is, "You're fat." And I was like, well, I was going to offer to do some part-time work. Peace. So I appreciate it. Thanks, Nate.
Nate, what do you have coming up?
I just got more crazy cases coming up. Just launched the one today about the Trump administration arrested a MAGA supporting Republican senator who introduced the bill to make TDS a mental disorder, a legally recognized mental disorder. And surprisingly, on the day he announced it, the Trump administration arrested him for child blank. So yeah,
CP.
No. He went to meet the child. And got
Oh.
arrested in his car.
I'm sorry. Who was this?
His name.
So he got
he's
Hansen.
He's a Minnesota state senator. Yeah, but it was the cops.
I know. I'm just saying a way to code it for YouTube.
Yeah, no, we had a judge just get arrested here in Utah for a Chris Hansen situation.
Yeah, so the TDS being a mental disorder, that just kind of just fell apart because the guy who was sponsoring the bill getting arrested. And interesting thing about Minnesota is that if you commit the felony in your car, the state actually can get your car. So his vehicle is actually now property of the state because
no, that makes sense because it's like drug laws when you're transporting drugs. They seize the
And in this case, he actually told the person he thought who was a young girl, he told her that he wanted to have sex in the car. So that statement allowed them to seize his car. Now his car belongs to the police department. So just cases like that. And we have the first BLM mayor who's now facing eviction, who allegedly stole money, and the city has garnished his wages because he spent so much money on this mural that they said we're not going to pay for it, so they're taking it out of his paycheck. So we got a whole bunch of crazy stories like that. So if you like crazy stories like that, Nate the Lawyer's channel, you guys know it already. And also me and this one up here, or this way, are going to follow up on the womb collector who was found not to be a womb collector in a court of law. But just
Can we start calling him the womb snatcher?
That's true. Or the famed by MSNBC.
The womb predator.
He's the settlement collector right now.
The settlement collector.
He is the settlement collector.
He moved from the wombs to a settlement, so we'll call it a suitcase of cash. That's what he's collecting, and good for him. On that note, all right, everybody, if you like this kind of show, and sometimes it can get fiery. Somebody just literally complained again about Pisco. He's not even here, guys. I have to point that out. If you watch one episode and it angers you so much that you unsubscribe, that's kind of odd. It's like, I guess you really aren't a huge fan of the show. If you're like, oh, that used to be my favorite show, and now this guy made me so mad that I can't watch it anymore, I'm unsubscribing. I'm going to guess maybe it really wasn't your favorite show, but I don't know.
Yeah, everybody has bad days, guys. Come on.
It's interesting. We're going to try
After
to
4 years, right? It's like, oh, yeah,
control
one
it.
show. It's over. It's over. It's crazy.
So either way, I appreciate everybody being here. If you like this kind of thing, hit subscribe below. I'll be back on later with America's Untold Stories for Freeform Friday, where we'll be going over whatever's in the news. I don't know if we're going to go over any documents from RFK or not. We have lately, but a lot's been going on. You got Elon Musk and Tesla. Obviously, you've got these judges. There's just all kinds of news that's happening. So hope you guys consider checking it out, and we will see you next time.
Peace.